written a play which was broadcast on the BBC in London last week called Leviathan 99. And I took the whole theme of Moby Dick and I laid it in the future. Instead of the seas crossing our world here and finding the whales, I had spaceships in the future going out in search of great white comets. And in examining Moby Dick in the past, I tried to write an explanation of the way we can look at our possible future. And if you'll excuse me, I'll try to find that section of my play and read it to you that explains some of the ideas I have about space travel and our religious feeling about it in the coming years. Here we are. In this play of mine, Leviathan 99, in the future, my preacher is a robot whose messages about the future have been put on tape and wired into his body so that he can lecture the spacemen before they go out into space and tell them what he thinks space travel is. And if you'll bear with me, I'll try to give you one of his speeches where he talks to the spacemen the night before they go out looking for the comets in space. And he says as follows: "Is God dead? An old question now, but once hearing it I laughed and replied, no, not dead, but simply sleeping till you chattering bores shut up. A better answer is, are you dead? Does the blood move in your hand? Does your hand move to touch metal? Does that metal move to touch space? Do wild thoughts of travel and migration move behind your flesh? They do. You live, therefore he lives. You are the thin skin of life upon an unsensing earth. You are that growing edge of God which manifests itself in hungers for space. So much of God lies vibrantly asleep. The very stuffs of worlds and galaxies, they know not themselves. God reaches for the stars. You are his hand. Creation manifest. You go in search. He goes to find, you go to find himself. Everything you find along the way, therefore, it will be holy. On far worlds you will meet your own flesh, terrifying and strange, but still your own. Treat it well. Beneath the shape, you share the Godhead. You Jonahs traveling in the belly of a new-made metal whale, the rocket ship. You swimmers in the far sea of space. Blaspheme not against yourselves or the frightening twins of yourselves you will find on far worlds, but ask to understand the miracle which is space, time, and life in the high attics and lost birthing places of eternity. Woe to you if you do not find all life most holy. Better then if you stayed locked forever in the belly of the rocket like Jonah, never to be vomited out upon the dry land. What am I saying here is this: not understanding the miracle, but born here upon this strange world. This very night, your generation, our generation, the two are one, are commensurate with that time 1 billion years ago when we came out of the sea of this earth. We don't know anything about that time. We've tried to guess. But we did come out, and we formed a spine for ourselves, and we reared ourselves up upon this land, and we moved unto the land, and we lived in caves and were terrified, and we lived in trees and were afraid, and we finally formed cities against the night, and we poor ape men, and that's all we are still. We poor ape people upon this strange world, now very late in time, with your generation, are daring to do the great thing. And we're going into space, and we're going to live forever. Now, at the basis of every religion in the history of the world is the question, why bother? Why life? Why are we here? What's it all about? We don't know. You're part of the continuing answer to your environment. But we give the great answer, the great I saying, not the no saying, but the I saying to the universe, saying, yes, it's good. I like being alive. I like breathing. I like feeling. I like all of my senses. Space travel is basically a theological movement. It is not political. It is not military. It is a religious movement wherein mankind relates himself to space. The word religion means to relate. To relate. So we stand here in the midst of a thing we can't explain, and we look around the universe and say, the gift is great. We either believe in the gift or we do not believe. And God protect and forward us in this effort to protect ourselves in special shells and go off into space, where your children's 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 children, mirror images of yourself tonight, will live 10 million times a million years after this hour when I speak. That's what space travel is all about. It's a very huge subject. Go home and think about it. We're part of a long effort of the universe to understand itself. This blind thing turning in its sleep. You're part of that blindness coming awake. Every single one of you is a cell of this thing struggling to stay alive, dying every day, rebirthing itself every night, and making do. And that's what space travel is all about. And it's nothing else. And don't let anyone demean it in your eyes. That's the reason you're interested. That's the reason this generation says, for God's sake, stand aside and let us do this, then let us break free from death, from continual destruction and continual wars and the seed of evil that is in all of us. We know it. And so we run. Yes, sir. People are always saying to me, this is an escape. Why are you using space as an escape? You're damn right I am. There's something to run away from us. I don't understand my own evil. And neither do you, do you? So, knowing that we're the two things, but we're all the flesh of God. You see, this is where I argue with our great politicians. If we all exist on this world together, each with our own blindness, each with our own aggression, each with our own hostility. So I see space travel as a way of fusing all the races and the nations of man into one group which names itself humanity and looks at the universe and says, there is the enemy, the universe that doesn't wish me to exist and doesn't care if I do. And against that hostility, against the unknowing abyss, I stand and name myself one race on one planet that will go get the work done and survive and make do 1 billion years from now. It's that big. I'm saying to you, go out to the rocket test stands in the Santa Susana Mountains. Go to Houston, go to Cape Kennedy, and see what's going on there, and come back with these symbols and work with them. You don't need a new medium to express them with. But nobody's speaking of these ideas. It's shocking.